What is up, guys? I'm your friendly neighborhood web war fanatic, and this will be my review of the Civil War expansion for Marvel Champions. And I wanted to get this out as soon as possible for you guys, because I know a lot of you guys aren't sure if you want to buy the box or not. It's a little bit controversial because this expansion did introduce a new mode, the PvP competitive mode for Marvel Champions. And yeah, hopefully this review can help you guys decide if this box is right for you or not. So let's go ahead and jump into it here. We have 8 categories here. So I'll be going over Tigra, Hulkling, their aspect cards. We'll be going over Captain Marvel, Iron Man, Spider-Woman, and Captain America, the 4 scenarios or leaders in the expansion. And then we'll be going over the modules in expansion, and then also my thoughts on PvP mode. There will be timestamps in the description, so you guys want to jump to whatever part you guys want to hear about, feel free to do that. So let's go ahead and jump into here with Tigra, and I have these categories here to just really give me a talking point, and this is like an easy format for me to like discuss the heroes and not have my mind go blank when I'm talking about each part. Okay, so Tigra here. Do I think that she's a fun hero? Yeah, she is pretty fun. So she is your typical minion slaying hero here, and we have her put up here on Hall of Heroes. But unlike other minion slayers, she does have a unique mechanic where she wants to just get minions in play, and she doesn't really care about actually killing them. She just wants them to like be in play, and like she wants to hold them like in front of her, right? So like Thor, for example, Thor's a hero that wants to summon minions, right? He can draw 2 cards each time he engages a minion. Tiger doesn't even care about summoning them. She just kind of wants them to be in play, like engage with her. Because after player phase begins, her hero ability on the hunt, you can draw 1 card for each minion engaged with you to a max of 3. So having those 3 minions and drawing 3 cards every turn feels very, very cool with her. If you want to see like a more in-depth review for Tigra, I have my hero review for her. I'll put that up somewhere for you guys to see. But I'll just be giving like some overall thoughts on her. And I think that she's definitely a fun hero. I think that she's very unique for how minion slayers go. I think that there's very, very interesting decisions of how you want to play Tigra because she gives you a lot of room to like search for stuff. So, for example, here with her alter ego action undercard work, search your deck and discard pile for a copy of Hunted and add to your hand. So you can trigger this. You can add Hunted to your hand. Then you can decide if you want to play Hunted or use it as a resource. You have 3 copies of Hunted here. So if you're ready for a minion here, you can play Hunted, and then as additional cost to play this upgrade, you search the encounter deck and discard pile. So you look through both the encounter deck and the encounter discard pile for any minion that you want and then put it in play and engage with you. I think that that's very fun and interesting because you can pick and select which minions that you want. And if you put out all 3 copies of Hunted here, it's like, which minions do I pick? Because you're running out of the weaker minions, right? And you usually want to actually grab a minion with guard. That's what I normally like to do because for here, her hero ability here, each minion with a copy of Hunted loses guard. So like there's a lot of like interesting things that you can do with that. And then obviously she can also stun the minion here with Hunted. So that's very good to give you like a little bit of a break here, with your temple. So like the enemy is just like halted and you have like 1 turn to just keep in play, trigger your hero ability here, and then draw the card from it, and then you can defeat it next turn if you're playing like a more high tempo build, or find a way to weaken it, like with pin down from protection, which can reduce the attack of that minion, right? So there's definitely different ways to play her. So I think that she does have very interesting decisions, and I do think that she's actually a pretty powerful hero as well. In my hero review, I gave her the evaluation of an A tier hero. I think she is one of the strongest heroes in Marvel Champions and one of the best minion slayers as well. Bucky, in my opinion, was the best minion slayer before Tigra. Right now, I mean, they're like neck and neck. Bucky's really good at defeating minions, and Tigra's really good with her economy when the minions are in play with her. I think right now I'm leaning more towards Tigra, but definitely that can change with like new cards that come out. Not in terms of fun, in terms of who is the stronger hero. I think that Tigra is actually going to take the cake of being the strongest minion slayer in Marvel Champions. But I do want to add a caveat that if you're playing on Standard 2 and you're playing with more steady enemies, right? Because Standard 2 Formidable Foe, if you're playing that on Expert mode, you have the Expert side, which gives all enemies steady. If you're doing that, Tigra is going to be weaker. She's going to be a lot weaker than a Bucky and a lot weaker overall, right? So this is more of like a Expert 1 type of like range. The more high that you go, that's going to be where the S tier heroes excel, and a lot of the A tier heroes will fall off. At that. So you guys do got to watch out for the steady and stalwart minions because she has a lot of ways to confuse and stun those minions, like with Moon Knight here as well, right? So after you play Moon Knight, you search the encounter and discard off for any minion, put it in play, engage with you, and stun and confuse a minion, right? So A lot of statuses. She has a way to confuse them too with the cat-like reflexes here, where you can confuse a minion engaged with you. So if the enemies have, or the minions, I mean, have Sight or Star, that really messes up her kit. So beware of that. Better than that, she is a very strong hero. And does she have the wow factor? Yeah, guys. I mean, she is insane. Often turns, on round two, I'm having 11 cards in my hand, which is pretty bonkers, right? Because you're playing a Bring It. You can draw 3 cards with this. And then with the Cat's Head Amulet here, this card's pretty crazy here as well. You can exhaust the amulet, generate a physical resource for each minion engaged with you to a max of 3. So on top of having like so many cards in your hand, you have this potential triple resource generator on the table as well. Bonkers, guys. I mean, yeah. I mean, she has very good economy. I think that economy gives her a lot of versatility to play a lot of her cards in the same turn and do a lot of things. Yeah, she's a very fun hero. She has that wow factor for me, very unique in her own right as well. So her rating here, we're gonna click this button over here, is 5 out of 5. I think that she is an awesome hero. Mechanically, I don't know too much about Tigra, thematically, like the lore, the character, and all that. I know a lot of people are also not too familiar with her. But if you're playing Marvel Champions for mechanics and you want to experience a fun hero and have a good time, Tigra is definitely that. So she is, she's in Civil War. She's one of 2 heroes, and she is awesome. We got to go through the aspect cards here for Tigra. Do I recommend the cards in her kit? She comes in the aggression aspect with her precon. And yeah, I mean, the main card here is going to be the aggressive conditioning, in my opinion. 3 cost upgrade, play under any player's control, max 1 per player. You get +3 hit points, and hero gets +1 attack. This is, expensive. 3 cost is expensive. 3 hit points is always useful, and +1 attack is invaluable, guys. You cannot get this. Like, there's very few ways to get this in Marvel Champions, and Combat Train from the core set was one of the only ways for a very long time to get the +1 attack. There are a couple other ways now. You can clear off specialized training to get the combat specialist to get a +1 attack there. But there you got Thor. You got to do a lot of hoops to get over. This you can just play and get the +1 attack. So very valuable to just have this +1 attack. And for any aggression deck where you want your hero to have that high attack side where you're running a lot, swinging for a lot of damage, this card is an auto include. So very powerful card that you can use with a lot of different heroes in aggression. You also have 2-gun kit. The allies are crazy here. He's a very strong ally when he makes a basic attack. Choose 2 enemies instead of 1 and resolve this attack against each one of them. Very good here. Great stat line for a 3-cost ally, in addition to having a very good effect to bump that even more. The other ally she has in her precon is Yellow Jacket here. He's also very good. Play only if you have the Avenger trait, but as a response, after you enter play, search the top 5 cards of your deck for an upgrade, add to your hand, so he refunds a little bit of his cost. At worst, and at best, you're getting a key upgrade that you can play right away. And yeah, I mean, 2 Thor, 2 attack, 2 consequential damage, and 3 life is a good stat line for a 3-cost ally there. In addition to that ability, making him kind of almost like a 2-cost ally, right? The other cards are going to be a little bit more niche, but they're still going to be good if you're playing into that playstyle, and you can really lean into them, right? Air cover, I think, is also very fun. When you're summoning minions, right, you can remove a counter, search your deck and discard power for a tactic upgrade and attach it to that minion. And then, yeah, you can, or that can be attached to a minion and then you add it to your hand, I mean. So that's very good here to get you more economy, or you can play the tactic upgrade. Cyclops loves this card. You have the tactic upgrade right here, suppressing fire, where when you attack and defeat the minion, you can heal 2 damage, allowing you to stay up in hero 4 more. You have the coup de grace, 2-cost event, hero action attack, defeat a non-elite minion with the upgrade attached. That synergizes well here with the suppressing fire. There's also a lot of other heroes that have upgrades that you can attach to a minion there, and you can bypass one of the abilities as well. So these kind of have to work with each other, but they are good whenever you can get that going. The other cards I talked about earlier with the aggressive conditioning, these are just kind of like universally good if you can play them and afford this 3-cost here. And we also have the Savage Strike. I think this is kind of like the weakest card in here, but it can still be very good, and it's very fun to play, because 3-cost event, we make a basic attack, you get +6 for attack and attack against piercing. So similar to a Hulk Smash, you have to be making the basic attack, and you get additional damage for that. And then a Hulk Smash, you get overkill. This one you get piercing, so a little bit different there. This one you get +6 attack. Hulk Smash you get +10. So obviously Hulk Smash is better, but even then the Hulk Smash is not like a great card. So it's a little bit of a weaker card, but can be very fun and very useful in the correct situation. We also got a reprint of Bring It and the Spider-Girl ally in this aggression precon as well. So just very good and strong staple cards in the Civil War expansion. Okay, let's hop over to Hulkling here now. So let's go over Hulkling's kit a little bit. So Hulkling, he is a form changer here. So the way that he works is that he has these four shape shift upgrades right here, right? The imitation shape where he gets +2 thwart, the wing shape +1 to all of his stats, the Hulk shape +2 attack and +1 defense, armor shape +1 attack, 2 defense, and he gains retaliate 1. And they all also have a hero response where after you play an event, you can do this. This one you exhaust to take 2 threat off of scheme. This one you do 2 damage, right? So kind of like equal to where the shape is, like thematically, that's kind of like what it does. The imitation shape here is also has a force interrupt, so you have to trigger it. When an enemy would attack you, it schemes instead, right? Which is kind of thematic because Hulkling's gonna look like he's in his alter ego here when he's in this shape. So like the enemy doesn't, really see you, so they're gonna scheme instead of attacking you. So pretty thematic here, pretty fun character. And one big thing to note with that with these cards, I mean, are that they're all double resources, guys. And not just like the Power Novelist or like Power of Aggression, Power of Protection, where you can only generate double resource for like a specific card. These are universal double resources, guys. So just like the Energy, Strength, Genius, you can use these for anything that you want, for Hulkling's own cards, for an Avengers Mansion, for aspect cards. So yeah, he is already one of the most rich heroes in the game Marvel Champions to have 4 double resources here that are universal. You can add the 3 regular basic double resource and you have alien physiology here. 3 cost upgrade exhausted to generate a wild resource, and double wilds if you're paying for Hulkling card. So essentially a double resource generator, right? If you're paying for like these shapeshift upgrades here. And then the reason why I think Hulkling is so powerful is because these shapeshift upgrades here, the big drawback of having double resources like these over here is that if you're stuck with only these in your hand, well, you have nothing to play, right? You have all these resource cards, but nothing to play with them. Hulkling's cards here, you can play these cards for 2 costs. So you'll never be stuck with like a bunch of resources and nothing to play, because you're going to at worst play these. And each time you play a shapeshift upgrade here, you can trade this for response where you discard each other shapeshift upgrade and then you can ready up Hulkling. So if you have like Hulk shape here, you can swing for 1 + 2, 3 attack. And let's say you only have other shapeshift upgrades and double resources in your hand. Well, play another one. Play the wing shape. You're ready up. You can thwart for 2. Play the armor shape. You can like swing for 2 or like, do whatever again, right? So very, very versatile, very powerful. That's kind of his shtick here. So yeah, let's jump back over to here. And yeah, he is very powerful. So he's going to get a check mark here. I think that Hulkling is actually one of the strongest heroes in Marvel Champions. Top tier, S tier hero. I think he has that versatility. He can take on any scenario on Expert 1 very consistently, very reliably, and he does very well on the higher difficulties with like Standard 2 or like Heroic mode, Expert 2, all that stuff as well. Just a very, very top tier level hero. And then is he fun? I think he's awesome. He's very fun. I think he's more fun than Tigra because I like the high economy. I like abusing that. He's very unique as well because we've gotten a lot of shape changer heroes, in Marvel Champions, but he has his own style on it and its own flair, which is awesome. Very cool to see where you're playing your shapeshift upgrades instead of like having like that form that you like flip, or having like a 3-fold card where you flip into that giant form like Ant-Man and Wasp, for example, right? So a very cool spin on the hero, very unique. He kind of sets himself apart from other heroes, and like he's very unique. He has different play patterns. He also has very, very interesting decisions, right? A lot of the other form changing heroes, like, not to like poop on them, but like Shadowcat, for example, I think that her decisions aren't as interesting because you usually just want to end your turn in your phase form, right? You just have your solid form and phase form, and you want to just always end in phase form. There's ways to get there that's a little bit different, but you just want to be at the end of the turn in that form. Well, Hulkling, you can build him through the Hulk shape and just like specifically be like an aggressive like aggression deck, just sticking to this form. You can be, in your imitation shape and do your Nick Fury impersonation, where the enemy schemes, but you have, 3 thwart. You can be your wing shape, your like more versatile form and like remove a lot of threat, or you can be a pure shape changer and like change your shapes like every single turn and like constantly, shape shift, right? So there's so many different ways to play him where you can choose to just have one form or shapeshift all the time. He definitely sets himself apart from other shape changers and other S tier heroes. So very, very interesting lines for Hulkling here. And does he have the wow factor? This just kind of means like, do I really like this hero? Do I think that it's like, separate from like other heroes in the game or like other scenarios in the game? And Hulkling definitely has that for me. So, he also gets a straight up 5 out of 5 score here. I think that Hulkling and Tigra, they are peak mechanics, peak design for Marvel Champions. You guys have probably often heard me say this, this year. I think that Marvel Champions, in terms of the design, is as peak right now, right? Not in terms of like delays and like, the quality of like heavy hitter heroes or like, mainstream well-known heroes, not that, but in terms of like the design of the mechanics of heroes. I mean, Civil War is peak and Hulkling and Tigra, they are peak. Two of the coolest heroes in all of Marvel Champions, very unique. And I didn't know either of these characters, and I've grown to love who they are. So Hulkling definitely gets all the check marks here. And let's go over his precon a little bit for the staple protection cards. And he definitely has very, very awesome protection cards. The protection cards here, in my opinion, are better than the aggression cards. So let's go over some of them here. So Patriot, he's a 3-cost ally, 1 Thor, 2 attack, 3 hit points, a good stat line for a 3-cost ally. But as a response, after you engage a minion, give Patriot a tough stats card. So he can be Voltron quite easily if you're playing a hero like Tigra, who wants to have a bunch of minions, right? So amazing ability here with already a good stat line. With Hidden Base, this is also a staple for like any protection deck with like Ready for a Fight that wants to flip down to Alter Ego a lot, because as an Alter Ego response, so this only triggers when you flip down, you end in Alter Ego, right? So you're in hero form, you have to change forms here to Alter Ego. Then you can trigger the Alter Ego response, exhaust Hidden Base, remove a counter from here, give your identity a tough stats card. Invaluable, guys. I mean, there's 3 counters, so that's 3 toughs there. Very, very good card here. Excelsior is also very fun as well. 1-cost upgrade is restricted because it is a weapon. A response after your hero defends against enemy attacks, spend a energy resource, deal 2 damage to enemy. Note that this card does not exhaust. So very, very cool there. It's always cool to have weapons that do not have to exhaust for other weapon cards that want you to exhaust your weapons. Usually those cards are in aggression, but if you're playing a multi-aspect here, you can include both. This is restricted though. There are weapons that are not restricted. This one is restricted, so you can only have 2 restricted cards here. But yeah, very fun card. And then like I was talking about before with the aggressive conditioning for Tigra, the defensive conditioning here for Hulkling, his precon, this card is arguably even better, right? Because 2-cost upgrade instead of being 3 costs. Same effect here, you get max 1 player, you can give to any player. If you're playing multiplayer, you get plus 3 hit points, and your hero gets plus 1 defense. That's awesome, guys. Whenever I'm playing a protection deck, I usually just include this, even if I'm not defending and I don't care about the defense stat, because it's just an extra way to get plus 3 hit points, right? So you put endurance, 1-cost upgrade to get plus 3 hit points, and this one's 2-cost upgrade to get another plus 3 hit points, right? So I would rather have 2 copies of this than like 2 endurances, because I only have max 1 per player for the endurance, right? So like if I have to toss the endurance if I'm playing the game, I know that this is still in my deck and I can play it, in the future whenever it comes out. So giving just more hit points is very good for only 2 costs. And obviously, if you are playing a perfect defense deck, this is a key staple, right? Add this with the armor vest, you get that, plus 2 defense there. There's other cards to increase your defense as well. This card, very, very good, guys. I mean, this is a protection staple, just like that armor vest, which is 1 cost in the core set. So yeah, awesome card here. These cards are a little bit more niche, so we have I can do this all day. Here, interrupt defense. When enemy attacks, declare your hero as a defender without exhausting them. So like in multiplayer, this is pretty cool. You can like redirect the attack towards you, and then you use your defense stat when you play this card. Taunt, we got a reprint here of Taunt with Captain America jumping around and saying, "Is that all you got?" Hero action, the villain attacks you, other characters cannot defend, and you draw 3 cards. We'll cut both ways here. 0-cost event, which is pretty cool for if you want to proc defense here. Here, interrupt defense. When enemy attacks, you gain retaliate 1 until the end of phase. And since it has this defense key right here, it does count as you defending, even if you don't exhaust your hero. Even if the villain just punches you in the face and take a lot of damage, you are technically defending, so you can proc any defense cards if you want. This works really well with a tough stats card as well that we saw with the hidden base, so you don't have to exhaust. You have the tough, it'll take the damage, and this will make you declared as a defender. So pretty cool there as well. And we also got reprints of the Night Nurse and Brother Voodoo, 2 very, very good, protection staples, in this aspect. So those are just really, really solid cards that I'm glad to see again here in the Civil War expansion, making them more accessible. And we have Iron Lad. He's also a very good ally. Only 2 costs, guys. 1 Thor, 1 attack, 3 hit points. 3 hit points is an amazing hit point stat for a 2-cost ally. As interval, whenever he uses basic power, you can exhaust another Avenger ally you control. Add that ally's matching power to Iron Lad for this use. Very useful. You can, instead of having both allies activate, you can preserve the consequent damage on the other ally and just have Iron Lad activate for more Thor or more attack there. So yeah, very, very solid precon here. A lot of good staple cards. Yeah, I mean, not much more to say. Both these heroes are very cool. I love both of their Precon decks, and I actually really like both heroes as well. Very, very cool. Okay, let's hop over to Captain Marvel here. She is a scenario slash villain slash leader here for the Civil War expansion. And what does that mean? Let's hop over here to Captain Marvel. So the way that the Civil War scenarios work is that each one of these scenarios here can be played, in your regular co-op version of the game, where they're like a villain, and all cards that refer to the villain will refer to, Captain Marvel here because she is, a villain. But also some of her cards might say like the leader, and she is the leader here if you're playing in PvP. And even if you're playing co-op mode, if it says leader, it also refers to her. But leader is more of like a term for PvP because when you're doing PvP, you have your own leader versus the enemy leader and your opponent as well. So yeah, how is her scenario? So she has stage 1 and 2 for standard and stage 3 and 4 for expert mode. I really, really like this stuff. So like if you guys look here, the setup here, enemy team finds, this attached to Captain Marvel. You have the exact same setup for stage 3, which is pretty cool. But then the reason why I do this is because you have a one reviewed here on stage 2, and you have a separate one reviewed here on stage 4. So this makes the standard and the expert more split in terms of like they can like cater the design more to where like because before if you don't have 3 stages for like a regular villain when you're doing expert mode they start off here on stage 2 and then you have to trigger this one viewed effect immediately and you start off with that in play. First with Captain Marvel here, if you're doing expert mode, she does not start with a one reviewed ability, so pretty interesting there. I actually really like that mechanic here, and all of the leaders here in the Civil War expansion have that mechanic. So the most unique thing about Captain Marvel is that she has the energy channel here. So this is a permanent, it comes in here with the setup. It's an attachment that goes with her as a force response after any leader, hero, or ally attacks Captain Marvel. So if you're playing her, in co-op mode, you're only going to have a hero or ally. After they attack Captain Marvel, you place an energy counter here. Then if there are at least 4 energy counters here, remove all 4 of them. Captain Marvel attacks the character and attack gains overkill. So whenever I first saw this card, and this is like the main thing that differentiates her from the other leaders, they all have, not all of them, but they usually have like a specific like mechanic, and this is going to be Captain Marvel's big shtick here. So when I first saw this card, I thought it was pretty interesting. I thought it was actually really cool because it feels thematic, right? Each time you punch Captain Marvel, she's like gathering these energy here, and whenever you get 4 counters, you remove all of them. She attacks the character, and then the attack has overkill. So if she's attacking your ally, because your ally attacked her to proc this, well, there'll be overkill damage and it'll bleed over to you. And then if she can like get like a boost card or like some extra attack here with like Cosmic Flight, she can really build out that attack. And yeah, that could be difficult to maneuver around because you can't chump block with ally, right? Because the attack has overkill. So I thought this was a pretty cool card. But the more and more that I played it, I realized it's pretty easy to game because there's no cap on here. And what you can do is a lot of her cards will like add energy counters, right? So like for example, here, Captain Marvel attacks you, place 1 energy counter on the energy channel. Right here, Captain Marvel schemes, place an energy counter on the energy channel. Here as well, place an energy counter on the energy channel, right? So there's ways for her to do that, and she can heal this card for each counter on the energy channel. So, if you're rushing her, it can be difficult because if she gets that card, this can be unlimited here. And if you're constantly proccing this and getting 4 counters, and like she's constantly attacking, that could be rough. But whenever she adds a counter herself, like with these cards, she won't attack you because the force response here is only after a leader, hero, or ally attacks Captain Marvel. So she won't unleash on you unless without you expecting it, right? You can dictate when and where she attacks you because you're going to attack her first and she's going to like retaliate and attack you back, right? So because of that, it's a little bit easier to game because you can just let all these cards, do their effect. You can get like 10 plus counters on here, which, isn't going to be like a great thing, but like you can just build all those counters. And at worst, she's going to heal 1 damage for each one of those counters, right? This would be a lot more scary if she had a card that was like, for example, when review this card, place a threat in the main scheme for each energy counter on energy channel. If that were to happen, that would be very, very scary, and she would be a lot more interesting. But because of that, how like you can really just game this, I found this not to be the most, unique thing. And the way that these scenarios work, I think that they are very straightforward. Now, I do want to say one thing. I do want to add a caveat because I'm being kind of negative here. I don't dislike straightforward scenarios in Marvel Champions. I actually prefer these straightforward, like you just beat the villain down, and you win, right? Rhino is a scenario that I don't hate in Marvel Champions. I think that he's, pretty normal. He has his flaws, but I like that he's just, simple to fight, right? Claw is also quite a simple villain. So whenever I go over here, my rating for Captain Marvel, the scenario, she's missing a lot of check marks. So she is fun. There's nothing about her that's unfun. And then she is unique because she has an energy channel there that I was talking about. That's kind of like her stick, right, where she attacks with overkill. I think that all scenarios that have overkill are unique because that's one thing that you kind of have to play around, because overkill, in my opinion, is like the most difficult thing to play around in Marvel Champions, because minions chump block, or not minions, sorry, minions to me if I'm using the chump block all the time, but allies chump blocking is kind of the strongest strategy in Marvel Champions. So if she deters that with her overkill, that's pretty unique. But the decision making is not very interesting because, like we talked about earlier, it's easy to game. And I think that she is not very powerful. And to me, she's missing that wild factor. So, even though here it reflects kind of negatively, I still think that she is a fun scenario. And I think that if you just like a straight up brawl, I think that she does a great job at that. And I think that, these scenarios here, I think that this is actually a very cool aspect of the Civil War expansion, is that these four scenarios are very, very good test villains, guys. If you guys like, Claw as a test villain, if you guys like to play Mutant Formula over and over again because it's a good test villain for you, these four scenarios are all amazing test villains. They're just straightforward brawls. They all have, two main schemes that are interchangeable. And yeah, you just beat the villain down and then you win, right? Very just simple mechanics and straightforward. It's like your classic Marvel Champions, right? If you want to play a classic game of Marvel Champions, these four scenarios will do that. I think that, in my opinion, they are better test scenarios than Claw and Mutant Formula because they're more simple in like what they want to do, and they all have like a specific strategy here, right? Captain Marvel, adding in that overkill adds an element that Claw never has, right? So Claw, you can just endlessly chump block and you're completely fine against him. Captain Marvel, you actually have to play around the overkill in addition to all the stuff that she does, right? With like, threats, with attacking, all that regular stuff. You also deal with the overkill. And each one of these scenarios has like that unique mechanic from them that will kind of change. Well, most of them have that unique mechanic. I'll move on to the next one here, but yeah. So I think they're all really, really cool test scenarios. So if you're looking for like a box and you want just straightforward scenarios that you can just beat down and test your decks against, I think that these are awesome scenarios for that. And I do want to talk about the main schemes a little bit here. So basically, for Civil War expansion, these are all for PvP here. But all these leaders here, like the Iron Man leader, the Captain Marvel leader, they have interchangeable main schemes. And you have a bunch of different main schemes that you can pick from. And then you have a stage 1 and stage 2. And they all have like different constant effects. So you can make the scenario more interesting or like more bland, depending on whatever you want. You can pick and intermix, those main schemes there. The main scheme 1 threats out at 7 is going to advance to main scheme 2. If that one hits 9, then you'll lose. And I think that thematically actually makes sense that they have like, interchangeable main schemes because like Iron Man and Captain Marvel here, they're both with the team registration. So their main scheme, they have the same like schemes, right? They want the exact same thing. So if they are scheming and they're threatening out, that means that their team registration won. Same for team resistance with Captain America and Spider-Woman, right? They want team resistance to win, so they have the similar main schemes as well. So I think that that's actually kind of cool how that works out thematically. I think that was planned, right? Yeah, so let's hop over here to Iron Man, which is the next scenario. So Iron Man, I go back and forth here between Iron Man and Captain America. I think that right now, because I may go back and forth again, but I think right now Iron Man is my favorite leader of the four leaders. He is very, very cool. So first off, the way that his shtick works is that he's very similar to the hero version, in the core set, that hero Iron Man here. He gets +1 scheme for each tech attachment on him to a max of +3 scheme. So if you have 3 of these tech attachments here, then Iron Man gets to a scheme of 4. If you get any more, it's still just going to be capped at 4. 4 is a whole lot of scheme, guys. 4 is like one of the highest schemes that you can get. I mean, it's the highest that you can get, for a scheme stat for a villain. So yeah, very, very high scheme there. Okay, he still gets a boost, right? So like, if he gets a boost of 3 scheme for 7, which is crazy. And then he only has 1 attack, which is a little bit lower, right? He has 2 attack here on stage 2, 2 on stage 3, and then 3 on stage 4. One other thing to note is that a lot of these attachments give him +1 attack. So if he has both these attachments right here, let's say you're facing him on his stage 4, well, if he has, let's say he has these 3 attachments, right? He'll have 4 scheme, and he'll have 5 attack. 4 scheme, 5 attack. is bonkers, guys. That's like above Ronin level. So like with the boost cards that you're getting, I mean, he's swinging and scheming for like 7, 8. That's crazy, guys. I mean, that is just very high attacks and high schemes. And then yeah, so he can just review these things right here. And these things are pretty annoying to get rid of, right? You have to make a basic attack against Iron Man and then spend the specific resource here to get rid of this card. If you guys know me, you guys know that this is my most despised hero response to get rid of an attachment, right? There are ones where you just have to make a base attack, and there are ones where you just have to spend 3 resources as a hero action. This one you have to do both. It's only two resources though, so it's not as bad, but like you have to do that. And this one's annoying to get rid of as well, because you have to when he would take amount of damage, you place on here, and if there's at least 5, then discard this card, right? So he has, you know, these tech attachments here that are pretty annoying to get rid of, and oftentimes when I'm playing him, I just leave them in play. But like that's the decision that you have to make, right? If you leave him in play, he's gonna have that higher scheme stat and potentially higher attack stat as well. So yeah, I think that he's actually very interesting in how that works. I do want to go over a little bit about the setup here. So the enemy team searches the encounter deck for an Iron Man attachment, and your team reviews it. One thing that you guys will see is kind of like a theme in the box is that a lot of these texts here are more catered for PvP. So if you're playing PvP, you know, the enemy team, the opposing team, they'll search the encounter deck for an Iron Man attachment, and then they'll give it to you, right? And then you can review that attachment. So that's pretty fun because it gives decisions for the other teams, you know, to interact with you. But in solo mode, it specifically said in the rulebook, you have to Grim Rule this, which basically means that you search the encounter deck for yourself for whatever attachment that you think is the worst for you and your deck, and you deal it to yourself. I do not like that at all. I think it doesn't detract from the scenario, but it kind of detracts from like how the rulings work with this. And I'm not a big fan of that because whenever I'm playing, you know, co-op, when I'm playing like true solo, for example, I want to go all out against Iron Man. I don't want to help him pick the worst thing for me and then give it to myself, right? That's just not like my playstyle. That's not how I want to play. Like, so every single time this happens, I'm tempted to give myself the weakest one. But, you know, we have the Grim Roulette, so I have to give myself like the worst one. So, for example, if I'm playing a rush deck here against Iron Man, like a rush aggression deck, then I want to deal myself the Mark 5 armor to give him extra attack to make him, or not extra attack, to give him more hit points essentially, right? Because every single time I attack, it goes on the Mark 5 armor, it blocks out the damage, and this will deter rushing more and make it more difficult for me to rush. If I'm playing like a stun lock build, like a confuse lock stun lock build, I want to give him the Mark 5 helmet so that he gains stalwart so I can't stun or confuse him. If I'm playing like a regular build-up build, I probably want to just give him like the power gauntlets here, right, to give him like plus additional attack or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I have to like decide myself, you know, what's the worst one, and I have to like intentionally hurt myself by giving myself that. So that's pretty annoying. That can also happen through the Stark Tower here. Whenever it's defeated, you search the encounter deck and discard power for Iron Man attachment, and your team reviews it. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. It doesn't actually detract from scenario for me. I just wish that the ruling was like there's a specific attachment that just says to pull out here to give to Tony whenever you do that effect. Another thing to note here is that with all these scenarios, they all have the exact same one reviewed here on their stage 2 and stage 4s. So basically the second form whenever you flip them over. And it's deal each player an encounter card, which is not super interesting, but it is difficult. And Iron Man cannot take damage this phase. So yeah, same thing here for Captain Marvel, same for Spider-Woman and Captain America. I actually really like that, even though, okay, I hate it in terms of like my playstyle, but I like it in terms of like what it does for the box and like the design of these scenarios, right? Because if you guys watch any of my playthroughs on my channel, my favorite thing is to burst down the final stage of a villain to build out and accumulate all my damage and do that, right? So you guys, this is pretty common here where you do each player an encounter card on the one review ability here, right? This is a pretty normal effect. So I don't want to review that encounter card. When an encounter card is dealt, it doesn't get reviewed until like the next until the next time that you're revealing encounter cards, you know, in the villain phase. So if I flip Captain Marvel to her stage 4, you know, I get dealt that encounter card. If I can kill her right then and there, I never have to review that encounter card, and that's what I want. That's what I want to do. I don't want to review that encounter card. But now the ability here forces me to review that encounter card because she can't take damage this whole phase whenever she gets flipped to stage 4. So I'm unable to kill her here and burst her down, and then I have to let her have villain phase and review this card. You know, I almost feel like this was like designed specifically to like make my games tougher. But yeah, it probably wasn't. But yeah, that's crazy. Like dislike it in terms of like how I want to play, but I like the design a lot. I think it's very cool design, and I wouldn't mind seeing this going forward. It definitely makes the games a lot more difficult because you have to review the extra encounter card, which is kind of like a tempo turn for the villain, right? Getting 2 encounter cards at least, that turn. If you deck out, you give them another one, so potentially 3 encounter cards. If there's like hazards, that all stack up and make things a lot more difficult. So yeah, I mean, I really like that ability there. So yeah, that's not unique to Iron Man. That's for every single scenario. But yeah, I mean, that's just how that works, and that might be a recurring thing now, because I know that the Enchantress scenario from the Trickster Takeover scenario pack also has a similar mechanic where like she doesn't block out all damage, but she reviews a side scheme where she can't take damage until you defeat that side scheme. So like if you want to make that push, you also have to have thwarting, in your hand to clear out the side scheme immediately. So pretty cool there. So Iron Man, I think he's awesome. I think he has interesting decisions. Do you want to take off, those tech attachments, or you want to keep them? And he's actually very powerful, and he has a wow factor here for me as well. So Iron Man here, I gave him a full 5 out of 5 score. I think that he is like your peak basic brawler scenario. And yeah, if you just want to punch down a villain, you just want to get their hit points down to 0. You don't want to think too much like, oh, how do these mechanics work? What do I do with the upkeep? Iron Man is that scenario for you. I think that he's an awesome test villain for that as well. You need to have economy to take out, his tech attachments. He has no overkill, so he's more of like a test scenario in terms of like he doesn't have like something crazy to like, pop off with you. But he is unique because he ramps up with those tech attachments and can get his stat line to insane numbers that no other villain, has in the game. And he's very fun. And one thing to note with Iron Man specifically is that when you change out the modules with Iron Man, he ramps up so much, guys. It's crazy how much the modules impact the scenario. He's a very, very good baseline type of villain, like with like what he has in his kit, like just those tech attachments, those side schemes, the start tower, for example, and then just what he has is just very base. And depending on what module that you put in, you can really make him super difficult or super easy. And it's crazy because with other scenarios that are more difficult than Iron Man, if you give them like a difficult module, it may not impact that scenario as much, but that same module for Iron Man may actually ramp him up, make him more difficult than that normally more difficult scenario. So that's a really, really cool thing here. I played Iron Man with every single Thunderbolt, Elite Thunderbolt module in the game Marvel Champions, and like from that Citizen V, that Thunderbolt scenario in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. expansion. So I put all of them in there for Iron Man. I played as Captain America and Bucky. That is easily, that's a bad word to use, but easily one of the toughest games I've ever played in Marvel Champions, guys. That was tough. We had to take down like all those elite minions, all with like 14 plus hit points. And it was crazy how difficult Iron Man like himself felt with all that. So yeah, okay, Sesame's here. And okay, she's gonna chill. So yeah, I mean, Iron Man is awesome. I love how easily he changes with the modules that you put in as well. He's a 5 out of 5. He's an awesome test villain, an awesome difficult villain as well. I think that in terms of difficulty, I'll put him in the A tier. And I've heard people go back and forth in terms of like what is difficult. So like for me, what the A tier is it's more difficult than Claw and Mutation Formula. So I know that those are respected scenarios in the game Marvel Champions. If you guys think that those are difficult scenarios, I think that Iron Man is more difficult than those. But depending on the modules, you can definitely make him more easy as well, right? If you give him more easy modules, he'll be more easy than those scenarios. But yeah, a very difficult scenario in my opinion, and a very cool. He's not like Ronin or Venom Goblin difficulty, but he is a respectable A tier, and I really like the design of him. So full 5 out of 5 score here from me for Tony Stark Iron Man. Next, we're gonna hop on to Spider Woman here, and yeah, let's jump over to there. So she is the first Team Resistance layer that we'll be taking a look at here, and these are the main skins that I was talking about earlier. So Spider Woman here. Okay. So her setup here, her unique thing is to find the finesse attachment and then you attach to Spider Woman. So it's permanent, max 3 skill counters on here. So unlike Captain Marvel's, there's a max of 3. When a treachery is revealed, you place a skill counter on this card. As a force interrupt for Spider Woman, whenever she attacks, she gets +1 attack for each skill counter on finesse for his attack, and then right after that, you remove all the skill counters. And she has that force interrupt for all of her stages right here. And that's kind of her thing. So unlike Captain Marvel, unlike Iron Man, and like Captain America, this to me is the most bland one. Because she's getting extra attack, which could be kind of scary. It's capped at 3 though, so at worst she's hitting with that base 5 attack here, which is difficult, like don't get me wrong, but she doesn't have overkill. So if you're chump blocking guys, you just chump block endlessly. There's nothing to worry about, guys. You just gotta keep on chump blocking. Like there's nothing that you gotta like worry about. You just have like a weak ally with like one hit point left, and they'll soak all the damage for you. Now she does have a way to access overkill here with the Venom Blast, but it works a little bit weird. It works a little bit weird, guys. Okay, so when viewed in hero form, Spider-Woman attacks you. If the attack removed the following skill counters for finesse, 1 range, 2 piercing, and 3 overkill. And 3 is the strongest one here, of course, because she'll get that overkill as well. So like that is scary, with her, super high base attack. But like, just follow me here for a second, guys. Okay, so let's say, you're on her stage 4, for example, okay? And then the villain phase begins. Let's say she has 3 skill counters on finesse. Okay, so Spider-Woman attacks you. She will trigger this Force Disrupt. She gets +1 for each skill counter on her. So she's swinging with the base of 6. Let's say she gets a boost of 3. So she does 9 damage. You chump up with the ally. There's no overkill. So ally absorbs all the damage. You're good to go. Then you remove each skill counter from finesse. Then during the encounter step, you review your Venom Blast. Spider-Woman attacks you. If this attack removed the following skill counters and you do the effect, well, she has 0 skill counters now. So it's not triggering that anymore. Usually a treachery that reviews like, an attack is going to happen after like an attack already happened in that villain phase, right? Not every single time, but most of the time, right? Obviously, if you like stun her, then like this would be her first attack. So like maybe she deters stunning a little bit, but like even then, like I mean, it's just like one attacker. You have to like get really unlucky. But like most of the time, guys, like she's gonna attack and wipe off those skill counters for you with her regular activation in the activation step. And you review this where like maybe you can like surge something like that with like other skill counters, something like that. Mechanically, it didn't work out exactly how I wanted it to in terms of like making her difficult. I feel like she's just pretty easy and definitely the easiest of the leaders in here, and also the least interesting one. I did like the flare, like pheromones, where you're stunned and confused, just like the hero version of the card. But I wish that it just did a little bit more. Like we have enough ways to get rid of stuns and confuses nowadays, right? With readies, with like the Night Nurse. Unfortunately, Spider-Woman is my least favorite scenario here in the Civil War expansion. But that being said, I mean, she is still a fun scenario. So I did give her 1 checkmark here, 1 out of 5. She is a fun scenario and she is a straightforward scenario. I do want to add the caveat again. So like, this score looks bad here, right? Because she's not very unique. I don't think that there's interesting decisions that you can make in her scenario. I don't think that she's strong and she doesn't have the wow factor for me. But like, if I were to like, put Rhino on this chart, it would be the exact same thing. He'll only get 1 out of 5. I know a lot of people adore Rhino. Maybe you don't. But, it's not bad having straightforward scenarios. I feel like that in every expansion, we've gotten so many unique and crazy scenarios with like so many different things that like it's nice to just get a straightforward scenario like nowadays, right? So like I know a lot of people had the critique of the Agents of Shield expansion, saying that every single scenario there felt so weird and wonky. There's just nothing straight up. Like you just want that straight up brawl that the Agents of Shield expansion did not give you. I didn't really mind it, but like if you had that complaint about Agents of Shield, Civil War does not have that problem because these guys are just like classic Marvel Champions, villains, and you can definitely play your classic games against these villains here and just, bring their hit points down 0 and then you win the game, right? There's no like adventure type thing where they have to clear off side schemes first. There's no like, thing where you have to like escape from like, escape the museum, or like the Sinister Six where you have to like, run out at the light at the end and all that, right? So these are just straightforward brawls. There's nothing wrong with that. Unfortunately, if they are like that, they just don't get the unique check mark. And if they're, not powerful, that's not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing, right? So like they're just not strong, like Spider-Woman and Captain Marvel. Iron Man is strong, so like some people will value that differently, and obviously you can increase the difficulty with modules or make things more easy. So yeah, that's just my personal opinion on the Spider-Woman scenario. Next, let's move on to Captain America here. So Captain America, his main gimmick, he's also very, very fun. And I mean, he's like tied for me at the top with Iron Man. He is also very, very cool. So his main thing is for setup, you find Cap's shield and attach to Captain America. So here's a shield right here. It's a permanent attachment. Attached character gains Retaliate 1 and attacks against them lose piercing. So having Retaliate 1 is always going to be annoying, but this is a cool mechanic where attacks against him lose piercing. That's very thematic, and I like that a lot. So you can't just like pierce off, his tufts while he has a shield. Once you get rid of the shield, then the tufts are a free game to pierce off. But force response here. After a hero or the Captain America leader uses their ATK, their attack, to attack and damage attached character, attach cap shield to that character. So that means if you play like an attack event to do damage to Captain America, that is not count as using your ATK, so you will not take the shield with that. You have to make a basic attack here and actually do damage to him, right? So if he has a tough, you're not doing damage to him. You have to actually, do damage, and it doesn't matter if you use like an ally do it. You have to use a hero or the Captain America leader himself, right? So allies attacking him won't take the shield. It can only be equipped to your identity, a hero, or to the Captain America leader right there. So this thing, in my opinion, is actually not super duper unique. We've seen a similar thing with this before with the Power Stone, with Roland the Accuser, where it's like a tug of war there where you're grabbing that back and forth. Now, I do like the thematics of the shield a lot. I think it's very thematic to take his shield away from him, and then you'll have Retaliate 1, and then, he'll take it back from you, and then he'll get the Retaliate 1. So I think that's very, very cool, but I just wish that there was more interaction with the shield, right? Let's take a look at some of his cards here. So one review, if Cap Shoot is attached to him, give him a tough stats card and a face down boost card. Otherwise, attach Cap Shoot to him and give him a face down boost card. Like, that's a little bit lackluster to me. So at worst, you just give him a tough and a boost card. Otherwise, he gets a shoot and you give him a boost card. Like, it's not that bad. Like, there's not that much of a difference between the two effects. I wish that there are like more effects where it's like, if he has a shoot, he does this, and if he doesn't, like, he does something like way more chill, right? And the main card is going to be Shoot Toss, right? Right whenever I talk about it. So this is the one of the coolest cards in his kit. If Cap Shoot is attached to Captain America, you do 2 damage to each character you control. Otherwise, attach the shield to Captain America. So like this is like exactly what I'm talking about. I wish that he had more cards like this in his kit. Unfortunately, this is kind of like the only one that really like punishes you for whenever he has a shield, where like he'll swing it, shield toss, knock out all of your allies essentially, right? If all your allies have like 1 or 2 hit points left, like he'll just kill all of them, which is like crazy, and do damage to your identity as well. So I love the theme of this card, right? Having the effect where like, he does 2 damage to all of your allies, to your identity as well, versus literally just attaching a shield to him, which is like a pretty chill effect here, right? Having a brutal effect versus a chill effect if he has a shield or not. That's awesome. I really like that mechanic there. But even at worst, like the 2 damage to each character you control, that's essentially like in metal shards, but like double, right? So Magneto's metal shards do 1 damage to each character you control. This does 2. It's similar to like the concussive blast, from the under fire module that was recommended with Ultron, where you just deal 1 damage to each character you control. So like we've seen this before. It's nothing unique. At worst, it's just like that, and then at best, it's like almost nothing for Cap to just take a shield with an encounter card, right? And then the other cards here, this doesn't really have any involvement with the shield. We have the Fierce Determination here, where you attach the shield to Captain America, and it activates against the player who defeats the scheme. So if you defeat this and he already has a shield, like this basically doesn't do anything, he just activates. So like, this is not a good card. It's a tough card to deal with, because if you clear out the side team, he'll activate, which is always difficult to deal with. But like the shield interaction is like just not exactly where I want it to be. I just wish there was more things that he was doing with that shield, and just like maybe more punishing things, but also more like rewarding things, right? Like if you're constantly having his shield, like a lot of his counter cards will fizzle. That would be really cool. And if you're just leaving the shield on him, then like he is brutally difficult, right? Whenever I'm playing Captain America, I usually just build out against him. I just leave the shield on him, and like I'll get hit with this card, but it's not like a game ender type of card, right? So like I don't know. I feel like yeah. I just wish he had more shield interaction. I think that would make him a little bit more unique. So as you guys probably expected, I did give him a pretty good score, but I did not give him a checkmark here for being unique, because other than the shield, like he doesn't really have anything else that sets him apart from other scenarios in Marvel Champions. And all he needs with the shield, in my opinion, is like more cards to interact with it. But to me, the interaction is a little bit too limited for it to actually have that, right? Like Shoot Toss is the only card that, like, to me, makes a shoot impactful. Like whether or not he has a shoot or whether I have the shoot, right? That's kind of the only card there. That being said, I do think that he has interesting decisions, because you still have to decide when and where you want to take the shield. And if you're not going to take a shield, you want to slowly build out, which I think is the easier way to go against him. You have to be wary about that shield toss, right? Because this shield toss here could wipe out all your allies. And he also has the overkill card here, Super Soldier Serum. You know, it's an attachment +2 attack attached to Captain America. Whenever he attacks, this attack gains overkill, and at the end of the attack, you discard this card. So this card, I think, is the most brutal card for Captain America, just giving him that overkill there. I do want to go really quick over the ruling for this card. So his attachment on Captain America. Whenever it's attached to Captain America, he has +2 attack. He doesn't gain overkill. He only has overkill whenever this force interrupt triggers, whenever he attacks you. So if you get this card, like let's say you have Captain America, he doesn't have this card, right? And then you get dealt this as your face down boost card, and then he's mid attacking you, and then you review this card as a boost effect. Well, the boost is to attach to Captain America, but you already missed the time window for his force interrupt. So for that attack, Captain America will have +2 attack, but that actual attack with the Super Soldier Serum attached to him won't have overkill because he needs to initiate the attack. Like when Captain America attacks, he needs to initiate the attack with the Super Soldier Serum already on him, right? This attack was initiated without the Super Soldier Serum, so he won't have overkill for that attack. Just in case you guys weren't sure on that ruling, that's just how that works. And especially because this card is also kind of similar to, or it's actually the exact same thing as She-Hulk's superhuman strength that the She-Hulk leader will have in the Synthezoid SmackDown scenario. I think that, you know, it's a little bit, he has like parts and bits of like what other scenarios already have. So I feel like he's not unique, you know, in that own right. So I did not give him a check mark there. But other than that, I mean, he is powerful. I think he's very strong. A lot of people say that he's more powerful than Iron Man. I think that you could argue back and forth. I think that if you face them both bare bones, like with their recommended modules, I think Captain America is more tough. But I think that with a bunch of difficult modules, I think that Captain America also ramps a lot with more difficult modules. But Iron Man, like, he ramps a lot with those difficult modules. So I think that at base form, Captain America is more tough. With more difficult modules, I think Iron Man gets up there with those tech attachments. Because those tech attachments, if you don't deal with them, they really like amplify with like nasty stuff that's going on. So yeah, he can definitely get more difficult. Captain America does have the wow factor for me, though. I think that he's very awesome, very fun, also a very cool test scenario for you to face. You know, you don't want to just be chump blocked with allies all the time because of the overkill and because of the shield toss to potentially wipe the allies as well. But luckily, both of those aren't like surprise effects, right? So like whenever he shield toss and knocks out all your allies, it's not he's gonna attack you right away with like a heavy hit, right? So like you're kind of fine. And then same thing with the overkill, it's not gonna be surprise overkill, which is worse than like he has overkill. I know he's got let me plan out for it, right? So it would be cool if like a shield toss was like he throws a shield, kills all your allies, and he attacks you. That would be brutal. Or if like Super Soldier Serum like gave him like the overkill keyword or something like that, that would be brutal as well. But yeah, luckily for us, he doesn't have that. He is still a strong scenario though, but yeah, that would add a little bit more for him. Next, let's talk about the modules here in Civil War. Okay, so there are a bunch of modules here in the Civil War expansion. We have the Dangerous Recruits right here. We have the Mighty Avengers. We got Heroes for Hire. We got a bunch. So basically the way that these work is that the ones that have like a yellowish background, these are only for team registration. So like technically you're only allowed to have, you know, this Maria Hill module with team registration, or for any other scenario, like you can put it in like for Rhino or like Claw or whatever, right? But for the expansion itself, you're not technically allowed to put these in with the resistance ones. But like, I mean, Fantasy Flight Games are not gonna like, you know, bother you if you do that. And we have the blue backgrounds here, which are the modules here for the team resistance right here. So we have the New Avengers module, we got the Secret Avengers, we have Namor, and we have the Atlanteans, and then we also got the Spider-Man module right here with Defenders, and we also got Hell's Kitchen. A bunch of modules here. We also got Cloak and Dagger here as well. So yeah, tons of modules that you can pick and choose from. And I was very interested in the Spider-Man one here as well. He has some very cool cards, like Tangled Up. It's kind of like webbed up, where when attached character with Scheme, Thor attack, you discards instead, so it kind of blocks on activation. So cool stuff going on for sure. However, I think that they are not that crazy and not that not anything different than what we've seen before, at least for co-op play, right? So I gave them a score 1 out of 5. You know, it is fun. They're all, you know, fun modules. I think minions are the funnest type. I think Villain Theory said that. I totally agree with him. Minions are the funnest type of encounter card. So all those have like bunch of minions, right? Some have like one main minion, like the Spider-Man one, and like cards that support him. Other ones just have like that group of minions with like the teamwork keyword, you know, for that. So like that's cool. They are fun. I do like them. They aren't that unique. They're like pretty simple, and we've all seen kind of similar stuff to that, to those type of cards before. So it doesn't get check mark there. There's also not really like interesting decisions that you can really make, playing against those cards. I think that for PvP though, this changes because you can choose which cards you want to do to your opponent because they'll have different effects there. So yeah, but for co-op play, it's not really gonna be that interesting. And then they're not that powerful. I think they're all pretty easy to deal with. Even the ones with like elite minions with like Namor, he's not that rough. He's like, rough in terms of like comparatively, but like compared to like the most difficult minions that we've seen in the game, I mean, they're not even like close, up there. So yeah, they're not powerful. And then to me, they don't have that wow factor, unfortunately. They are fun though. You can add them and mix them. And it's very, very cool to see like these characters as minions, right? Like the Spider-Man module. I played so many games against this Spider-Man module just because, you guys know I like Spider-Man. So even as a villain, I want to see him come out. I play like a Spider-Man versus like a scenario, with the Spider-Man module where like he's like the chameleon or like a clone. So like there's so many cool things. It's cool to see Daredevil in the game always whenever he comes in. We have like Iron Fist here as well. We got the Defenders, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage. So yeah, it's cool to see these characters as enemies, as like minions that we can take down. But there's nothing like too crazy about them. I think that they are more catered for PvP, which is why their co-op version isn't crazy, but definitely work out in co-op, and it's definitely like a nice addition to have in the game. So why I think that these are pretty cool for PvP is like a card like this, for example. So the enemy team attaches this card to a minion or their leader. If you get this in co-op, you just like Grim Ruler for yourself. But if you get this in PvP, your opponent can now choose to give this to any minion or the leader, right? That's pretty cool because if you're like trying to rush down the leader, you can give this to the leader. And if there's like a really tough minion that has like a tough stats card and it's like activating a lot, they can actually give a life mile decoy to that minion and like really mess you up. So then that's fun to be able to like choose, have your opponent choose like the worst option of things to like give to you, right? And we also have Bullseye over here, which I had the pleasure of revealing this card from Fantasy Flight Games. So like he is so cool in PvP, but a lot less cool in a co-op or like solo, right? So when reviewed, the enemy team discards an attachment from your leader. Otherwise, discard upgrade you control. So like otherwise, it's like a co-op guard. You just pick any upgrade. So you pick like the trashiest, like weakest upgrade that you have, and then just discard it. But in PvP, the enemy team can discard an attachment from your leader. So like there's a lot of cards in PvP where you can like choose which card to do to your opponent. So like if I'm your opponent and I have like a nasty attachment, on your leader, like the leader that I'm fighting, then like I can pick Bullseye to do to you to help myself out and get rid of that attachment. So like that's like there's some really cool shenanigans that you can do in PvP with these modules here. Unfortunately, I think that in standalone or like in co-op, it's not as fun, but that's okay. Like it's okay to just get cool modules with like cool characters that don't necessarily have like the most like unique thing. Like these are all fun modules and they have like cool characters that we all want to see. So like I think that that's cool. It doesn't really like spice too many things up, in the co-op version of the game. But for competitive mode, I mean, I think that these guys are very, very cool. So overall, the modules are fine. I definitely don't hate them at all. But yeah, they are not the most unique thing that we've seen in Marvel Champions. Finally, let's talk about PvP here and my thoughts on the competitive mode in Marvel Champions. So to my surprise, I think it's really, really fun, guys. I actually think PvP is fun. Obviously, that's not the target audience of Marvel Champions, right? This is more of like a co-op, cooperative game where you're playing with your friends or, playing in true solo. But I have to say, they really got me with this. I do think that PvP is fun. Let's go over really quickly how PvP works. I have a how to play tutorial on how to play the PvP mode in Marvel Champions. So I highly recommend that you guys watch that video. I put it somewhere for you guys to see because it goes through exactly step by step how PvP works and how you guys, can play this. So like if you haven't seen that video or if you haven't tried PvP yourself, it might be difficult to like grasp how PvP works. It definitely was difficult for me until I actually like played it and tried it out for myself. So yeah, check out that video, guys, if you guys are confused by anything that I'm about to talk about. But basically, the way that PvP works is that you have your own leader, so it's your leader, and you construct a deck here for your leader. Your opponent will also bring their leader. It can be like Iron Man, Captain America, Spider-Woman, or Captain Marvel. They'll construct a deck for that leader. So they pick which main schemes that they want with their leader, and they pick which modules to put in there, and you have your leader. Then you'll give your leader, so let's say I have Iron Man, you have Captain America, I'll give my Iron Man deck that I created for you to fight, and you'll give your Captain America deck for me to fight. And then in my Iron Man deck, I put in Goblin gear, I put in like all the worst modules and all the worst main schemes. But yeah, so like you can kind of like pick what you want to do to give to your opponent. And you have the standard PvP set right here, which are these cards. And this is kind of like the standard set, for example, like, with Shadow of the Past, Caught Off Guard, Advance, Assault, all that stuff. So you have to put this into that PvP deck as well, right? So yeah, so you put these cards in, and they're pretty similar to that, right? Like whatever it takes. Whenever you're in hero form, the enemy leader attacks you. Whenever you're in Alter Ego, the enemy leader attacks your leader, right? So there's some cool interactions where leaders will attack each other. And then yeah, that's basically how it works. Basically, the first person to defeat their leader will win the game. And then if the leader that you're fighting defeats everyone on your team, then you'll lose. Or if the leader that you're fighting will scheme out on their two main schemes, then you'll also lose, right? And then you have this choosing sides right here. The side scheme starts off in play, which kind of prevents rushing. So you have to clear off the side scheme first before you can actually do more than 2 damage from attack to take on the opposing leader. The flip side of this card is now it's personal, it's obligation, which would just be in your play area after you clear out this side scheme, and you can choose when and where you want to use this action. Remove this card from the game. Each player on your team chooses 2 of your leader set aside player cards and you add them to your hand. So that's the stuff that we saw earlier here. For each leader, they have like these player cards here that are kind of just set aside out of play. And then whenever you clear out that side scheme, you can pick 2 of them and you add them to your hand. So like if you need to like pay for an expensive card, you can add this double to your hand, and all have like cool actions here and response as well. So after you spend this, you give your Captain America leader a face down boost card. Next time they activate and attack your opponent, you can choose like this one. I really love this card. You're fighting dirty action. So you get this event in your hand, and you can play it by paying its cost. Your Captain America leader attacks the enemy leader. If you spend a physical, you stun the enemy leader. So like that's really fun as well, right? So then like, because your Captain America leader is engaged with the opponent, your friend, your leader Captain America will punch the leader that you're fighting, right? That villain for you. He'll punch him in the face, and then he'll get a boost card for it as well. And then if you spend a physical resource to pay for this event, you can stun that enemy leader, so that next time whenever you're doing your villain phase, against that enemy, they'll be stunned, so that you don't have to worry about their next attack. So yeah, there are some cool cards here that you can get with that. And yeah, let's hop back over here. So what do I think about PvP? I think it is pretty cool. I gave it a score of 4 out of 5 here. I think that there's very interesting decisions, because Marvel Champions is like the game for like interesting decisions, right? There's so many broken combos that you can do, and so many fun things that you can do to like mess with your opponent. It definitely gets a check mark there. And it's very unique, because like the way that it operates, it somehow blends in Marvel Champions into like a competitive game. And like there's no game that's like Marvel Champions, at least competitively, because there's so many things that you can do. There's so much flexibility. There's so much like groundbreaking type of rules. Like there's so many meta things as well, right? Like with the pull aspect, like, and you have to do meta things like resting, or like if you lost your last game, like this card is free to play. The way that Marvel Champions works in a PvP game, I think with its strengths, is very good. I think that it does what Marvel Champions wants to do, in the co-op version of the game, where it's fun, it's engaging, and there's like wonky, crazy stuff that you can do if you really want to abuse certain stuff. Now, why I didn't give it a check mark here for the wow factor is that this is kind of comparing it to other PvP and other competitive games out there. And I think that Marvel Champions is more of like a casual competitive game, if that makes any sense, right? Because I think that there's so many things you can do to break the game. If like this was like a tournament and you're trying to win, there are definitely like things that you can abuse and like make the other person not have fun and just like stomp them. If like someone just wants to come and play like their favorite hero with like their favorite deck or something like that, right? You can definitely do things to make that where like you just win in like 1 or 2 or 3 turns. There's so many things that you can do, and you can like add in like modules to your villain to like make them like impossible to take down, right? Or you can put things to counter like whatever hero that your opponents are using. If your opponent is using like the Deadpool here, you probably want to put in the under attack module with the concussive blast to deal 1 damage to each one of your opponent's characters. So like, I think that it's not balanced. I don't think it's a balanced game. But I think that that's okay. I think that it can still be fun. I think that it is fun playing it in that type of way. And if you're just looking to have fun, if you're not trying to like min-max when you're playing against your friends, but if you go into it with the mentality of like, I just want to have fun, I just want to play a game with my friend and like, fight each other, and like I just want to play my favorite hero and feel like that hero, my friends can play as their favorite hero, and they want to, feel like that here as well. And we'll have our leaders. We're going to reenact Civil War, you know, Captain America versus Iron Man. If we just want to do that, I think that casually it is a fun game. And there's a lot of interesting stuff. And there is a decent amount of interaction that you can do. But you know, the biggest complaint and the biggest criticism of this is that the interaction is limited, right? I think that there is more interaction than what a lot of people give this mode credit for. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be you rushing down the leader that you're fighting, and your opponent's going to be rushing down the leader that they're fighting. And whoever wins first, you know, whoever wins that race will win. There's no way for your hero to attack your opponent's hero. There's ways for you to make, you know, your leader like do stuff on their board, and then their leader can do stuff to your board, but you can't necessarily like just fight each other directly, right? It's kind of like I want to buff up my Captain America so that my Captain America is stronger to like fight you or to fight your Iron Man, for example, right? So I think that that's where the PvP mode is limited. So if you want more of that interaction, if that's like, you know, not engaging enough for you, then PvP may not be the mode for you. But I think that if you like Marvel Champions, I think that the PvP mode is completely fine. And this will be a controversial take here, but in my personal opinion, I think that the PvP mode in Marvel Champions is more fun than campaigns. And you know, I just want to say here, I know a lot of people love campaigns, and then that campaigns can be fun, but I think that for me, there's not really a perfect campaign in Marvel Champions in terms of like the risk reward ratio, and that they're just very long. In PvP, you know, it's a lot shorter. You get the instant gratification. Yeah, I am more of a standalone player when I play Marvel Champions, so PvP kind of fits more up my alley of like I just want to like play for like, you know, 30 minutes to an hour and then be good with that, right? That's also why I prefer playing in True Solo as well. So like, yeah, PvP, I think that it is a yeah, I don't know what you guys are gonna think about that. If you disagree, let me know down in the comments. But yeah, I think campaigns are it's separate thing. It's complete separate from PvP, right? You can like one, not like the other. I think that that's totally fine. But PvP is just, you know, it's as light, breezy, a fun, like casual experience, even though it's also, you know, competitive as well. And yeah, we can finish it all in one sitting. So yeah, I am a big fan of PvP. I still prefer the co-op, you know, true solo version of the game more than PvP, but I think that it's a nice addition, and I think that it's a cool way to actually like fight your friend competitively with the Marvel Champions mechanics that we know and love. I do think that PvP, you know, in Marvel Champions in the Civil War expansion was executed very well. I think that for the mechanics of what the game, you know, can do, I think that this is a pretty good design for a player versus player. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Civil War expansion, guys. I hope that this has helped any new players or any old players decide whether or not that they should buy this box. If you already have the Civil War expansion for Marvel Champions and you played it a lot, let me know down in the comments if you disagreed or agree with my thoughts and which ones that you agreed or disagreed with. But yeah, I hope that this video was informative. I hope you guys all liked this one, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.